beats in the heart of every American. On this day, reflect on the parents who grow up without the comfort of their child, of the children who grow up without a parent. For the families of our fallen, every day is Memorial Day. Our fallen fought and gave their lives for an idea, a simple yet powerful idea, the idea that is America, embedded in our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, for which we swear an oath. The idea that here in the United States of America, every single one of us is born free and equal. No matter who you are, no matter where you came from, under these colors of red, white, and blue, all of us, every single one of us, is an American. And our fallen lived knowing that freedom and the idea that is America is worth fighting for, and is up to us, the living, to ensure they did not die in vain. And we do that by recommitting ourselves to the idea, the values that constitute America. That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and all women are endowed by the Creator with the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we uphold the cause, not just for which they died, but the cause for which they lived. And we must continue. We must live a life that is worthy of their sacrifice. And we continue to build this nation and never forget the idea that is America. So on this day and every day, may God bless our fallen and the cause for which they gave their all. It is now my privilege to introduce the Secretary of Defense, a man who I have personally witnessed his leadership in the crucible of battle. And I have had the pleasure of knowing him for a quarter of a century. He's a leader of courage, a leader of integrity, a leader of grit. It's my pleasure to serve alongside him yet again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce the 28th United States Secretary of Defense, Lloyd J. Austin III.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Vice President Harris, Mr. Imhoff, fellow members of the Cabinet, General Milley, and members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, good afternoon. To our distinguished guests, our service members, and my fellow veterans, thank you for letting us share this day with you. And to the Gold Star and surviving families here, you honor us with your presence. I know that when you look across this hallowed ground, you ache for those you have lost. Your devotion to your loved ones has never faltered. And in turn, America owes all of you support that does not waver. We renew that dedication every Memorial Day. And as we do, we also renew our faith in our democracy and the values of self-government that bind us together as Americans. We understand the stakes. In the 21st century, the security of the world hinges again on the survival and success of the American experiment. And in turn, that great experiment relies on the American patriots who volunteer to keep their fellow citizens safe and their nation secure. And these patriots carry the moral force that can be wielded only by free people defending their inalienable rights and the rule of law. Today, on the battlefields of Ukraine, the world again sees the power of democratic citizens and soldiers to defy tyranny, cruelty, and oppression. Their freedom is under attack. And so is the international order rooted in the rules that we have built since World War II at such terrible costs. We understand the challenge, and we're determined to meet it. As the President says, in the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment. We draw inspiration from the unity of our allies and partners, and we draw strength from the men and women of the United States military. In the years since we last gathered on this solemn day, America's longest war has come to a close. And today we remember the 2,461 American service members and personnel who fell in Afghanistan. And we remember all those who still carry the wounds of that war, to body and to soul. We hold them in our hearts alongside the patriots across generations who gave their lives to defend us all. The heroes here are joined together, united not just by their final resting place, but by their devotion to the values that gave life to our democracy. And they came from every state, from every territory, from every background, and from every creed. But they were all patriots who loved their country, who marched to defend our democracy, and who fought to forge a more perfect union. Their sacrifice demands more than even our deepest gratitude. In the words of President Kennedy, who rests nearby, quote, "We must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." So as we honor our fallen today, let us live by their dedication to democracy, to liberty, and to the Constitution. When choosing between what is easy and what is right, let us live by the example of our fallen warriors. And when the values that we hold dear are put to the test, let us live by the ideals that they gave their lives to defend. Today we hold the fallen in our prayers, and every day we strive to make them proud. Thank you again for being here today. And ladies and gentlemen, our Commander-in-Chief has been a staunch and steadfast champion of our men and women in uniform. And I know personally how much he values their sacrifice, their commitment, and how devoted he is to our men and women in uniform and to the families who serve alongside them. He has spent a lifetime in public service to advance the democratic ideals for which so many have given so much. It is my honor to introduce the President of the United States.
Thank you. They lie here in glory and honor, in quiet rows in Arlington, in cemeteries in Europe that I've visited, many of you have, in graves across our country, in towns large and small, America's beloved daughters and sons who dared all, risked all, and gave all to preserve and defend an idea unlike any other in human history. The idea of the United States of America. And today, as a nation, we undertake a sacred ritual to reflect and remember, because if we forget the lives that each of those silent markers represent, mothers, fathers, siblings, spouses, children, if we forget what they sacrificed, what they made, so that our nation might endure, strong, free, and united, then we forget who we are, who we are. Ladies and gentlemen, our First Lady, the love of my life, Jill, Vice President Harris, the Second Gentleman, Secretary Austin, General Milley, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Cabinet members, Gold Star families, most importantly, and survivors. Today, we renew our sacred vow. It's a simple vow, to remember, to remember. Memorial Day is always a day where pain and pride are mixed together. We all know it sitting here. Jill and I know it. Today's the day our son died. And folks, for those who have lost a loved one in the service of our country, if your loved one is missing or unaccounted for, I know the ceremonies reopen that black hole in the center of your chest that just pulls you in, suffocates you. I said 7 years ago today, our son, Major Bo Biden, took his last breath with Walter Reed. Major in the Delaware Army National Guard, he insisted on deploying to Iraq with his unit for a year when he was Attorney General. Came home a decorated soldier, Bronze Star, Legion of Merit, Delaware's Conspicuous Service Cross. He didn't die in the line of duty. He came home from Iraq with cancer. It was horrific cancer that stole us from him, stole him from us. But still, it always feels to me on Memorial Day, I see him, not as he was the last time I held his hand, but the day I pinned his bars on him as a second lieutenant. I see him with me down at the Delaware Memorial Bridge, hugging all the Gold Star families. Days like this bring back before your eyes their smile and their laugh. The last conversation you had, each of you know it, the hurt can be overwhelming. But for so many of you, as is with Jill and me, the hurt is wrapped around the knowledge that your loved one was part of something bigger, bigger than any of us. They chose a life of purpose. Sounds corny, like a Memorial Day speech, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. They chose a life of purpose. They had a mission. And above all, they believed in duty. They believed in honor. They believed in their country. And still today, we are free because they were brave. We live by the light of the flame of liberty that they kept burning. And so a part of them is still with us no matter how long ago we lost them. As hard as it is for many to believe, especially those whose loss is still raw, I promise you the day will come when the memory of your loved one, your patriot, will bring a smile to your lip before it brings a tear to your eye. That's when you know you're going to make it. Today, American service members stand watch around the world. And as many of you know, at often at great personal risk. And this Memorial Day, we know the memory is still painful of all the fallen who lost their lives during the last 2 decades in combat. Each of them leaving behind a family, a community, hearts broken by their absence, and lives that will never be the same. We see in the hundreds of graves here in Section 60 at Arlington, reminder that there's nothing low risk or low cost about war for the women and men who fight it. 7,054 American military members gave their lives over 20 years of our Iraq and Afghan conflicts. Untold others died of injuries and illness connected to their service in these wars. And the enduring grief borne by the survivors is the cost of war that will carry as a nation forever. And so, to every Gold Star family, to every survivor and family member and caregiver, this grateful nation owes you as well as the mercy you lost. And we can never repay the sacrifice. But we will never stop trying. We'll never fail in our duty to remember. With their lives, they bought our freedom. And so with our lives, we must always live up to their example, putting service before self, caring for our neighbors as ourselves, working fervently to bring our union just that much closer to fulfilling the founding creed. As the Secretary said, that all women and men are created equal. I've often said that as a nation we have many obligations, but the only one that is truly sacred, the only truly sacred obligation we have, is to prepare and equip those women and men we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they return home and when they don't. This is an obligation that unites Americans. It brings us together to make sure the women and men who are willing to lay down their lives for us get the very best from us in return. I want to acknowledge that we're making progress in key areas like comprehensive bipartisan legislation that is advancing in Congress that will deliver health care services and benefits to veterans and their survivors impacted by toxic exposures. We don't know how many Americans and service members may have died because of what they were exposed to on the battlefield. Toxic smoke from burn pits near where they were based, burn pits that incinerated with the wastes of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. But we have a duty to do right by them. And I'm determined to make sure that our brave service families and members that served alongside them do not wait decades for the care and benefits that they deserve. And that's why we're working so hard to find out what the facts are. Where we can still save lives, we have to act. All of us also have a duty to renew our commitment to the foundational values of our nation in their honor. For those are the values that have inspired generation after generation to service. On Friday, I spoke at the graduation and commissioning ceremony of the U.S. Naval Academy. I had an opportunity to do it the night before as well. It was a remarkable experience again, an honor. Looking out at those young men and women, newly commissioned officers, embarking on a life of service, they hold before them the example of the heroes who have gone before them, many of your family members. Heroes who've answered duty's call at Lexington, Concord, Antietam, and Gettysburg. Belleau Woods, the Battle of the Bulge, the Korean and Vietnam and Afghanistan, Iraq, and so many other places around the world. So many of whom never returned home, including the legacy of all those held prisoners of war or who are still missing in action. To be here today, soon after that joyful celebration at the Academy, is a bracing reminder of all that we ask of our service members and their families. For it's on the strong shoulders and noble spirits of our service members that our freedom is built, our democracy is sustained. And in this moment, when a war of aggression is once more being waged by Russia to snuff out the freedom, the democracy, the very culture and identity of neighboring Ukraine, we see so clearly all that's at stake. Freedom has never been free. Democracy has always required champions. Today, in the perennial struggle for democracy and freedom, Ukraine and its people are on the front lines fighting to save their nation. But their fight is part of a larger fight that unites all people. There's a fight that so many of the patriots whose eternal rest is here in these hallowed grounds were part of. A battle between democracy and autocracy, between liberty and repression, between appetites and ambition of a few who forever seek to dominate the lives and liberties of many. A battle for essential democratic principles, the rule of law, free and fair elections, freedom to speak and write and to assemble, freedom to worship as one chooses, freedom of the press, principles that are essential for a free society. We've heard this a lot. We've heard this a lot over the years, but we're now realizing how real it is around the world in so many countries as I speak. These are the foundations of our great experiment, but they are never guaranteed, even here in America. Every generation has to defeat democracy's mortal foes. And into every generation, heroes are born, willing to shed their blood for that which they and we hold dear. Ladies and gentlemen, today we remember and we reaffirm freedom is worth the sacrifice. Democracy is not perfect. It's never been good, perfect. But it's worth fighting for. If necessary, worth dying for. It's more than just our form of government. It is part of the very soul of America, the soul of America. Our democracy is our greatest gift as a nation, made holy by those we've lost along the way. Our democracy is how we undertake the constant work of perfecting the union. And we have not perfected it, but we've never stopped trying, of opening the doors wider of opportunity and prosperity and justice for people everywhere. Our democracy is how we endure through every challenge, overcome every obstacle we faced through the last 246 years of self-government, and how we've come back stronger than before. We must never walk away from that. We must never betray the lives laid down to make our nation a beacon to the world, a citadel of liberty and justice for everybody. This is the mission of our time. Our memorial to them must not be just a day when we pause and pray. It must be a daily commitment to act, to come together, to be worthy of the price that was paid. May God bring comfort to all those who mourn. May God bless our Gold Star families and survivors. And please, God, protect our troops. God bless America and all of you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of taps and the benediction.
Please join me in this closing prayer. Lord, thank you for this nation we call home. Thank you once again for those who, as the song says, more than self their country loved, and for the families of those fallen that are still grieving today. These are the patriots who continue to pay the price for the peace and security we enjoy. Now, God, bless us with your Spirit as we strive to honor their full measure of devotion, and bless with strength and courage those who faithfully continue to serve. Now, God bless America, her leaders, and all her children. Amen.
Please remain standing for the singing of America the Beautiful, performed by the United States Air Force Band and the Singing Sergeants. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain in place as the official party departs and the colors are retired.